Good evening, everyone. Jay Saki here. Welcome back to the show that's regularly becoming a show about an American guy and a British guy talking about horror films. Giles, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, and to be fair, that's a small quantity of your videos. It only makes up a very small fraction.
Well, you're the guest who's been on the most.
Oh well, I'm humbled then.
Okay, so tonight we are talking about The Omen from 1976.
Oh boy, where to start with this film? There's a lot to go over.
I guess we'll just say, I'm assuming everyone has seen this movie. If not, enjoy hearing us talk about it. I guess we'll slowly get into spoilers as we go, but it really doesn't matter. What's your history with this movie? My history was I was aware it was a thing. It was only a couple years ago you told me to watch it, and I did, and I thought it was very good, and it surprised me. Definitely not a film that I would have grown up with in my parents' household. And so I watched it again a couple days ago just for this review. Still liked it. What's your history with it?
Oh, it's probably one of the first horror films I'd ever seen. Um, Mostly because by the time I was old, like vaguely old enough to watch it, like early teens, it was considered tame by comparison. I remember it started because of The Exorcist, which is another great film. People were making what would you call like religious horror films again, which hadn't been the case for a long time.
Yeah, so you think this film is tame by comparison? In a sense, it's tame. In a sense, it's one of those freaky horror films that makes you feel like the devil's coming for you. This is the kind of film that normally I think I wouldn't like it, but because it does have just a very uncomfortable, depressing ending. But it makes sense because this is the kind of ending this story would have. Because the whole movie's like I've said before, I don't normally enjoy films where the devil essentially wins in the end. But with this film, it's like, well, the devil wins for now, because he's going to win for now. And
I'm
later has yet to come.
I'm going to give you some spoilers for the other two films then, because they are not really worth watching. The sequels aren't great, but the devil loses in the end.
Oh, do they kill the Antichrist in the later movies?
Yes, yes, the Antichrist
Well,
dies in the
that
third film.
that is really disappointing then, because it's completely theologically inaccurate.
Yeah, I think the people who made the sequels weren't really up with what the original film was trying to do. Since we're on the topic of the original film and its contents, one very important fact. I know I go a lot of. I know I really go behind the scenes with a lot of these films, but there's one fact about this film which is incredibly important, and it's that they didn't want to put anything obviously supernatural in the movie. They wanted it to be a guessing game of, is this the work of the devil, or are these just a freak series of natural events?
I think by the end it's definitely true that it is the devil. One of the original pitches would be that you'd be unsure whether or not it was just all accidental or imaginary, but they definitely leaned into, oh no, Damien is the Antichrist. Just for people, I suspect a lot of people who know me are just gonna listen to this. They don't care about. They're not gonna watch it, or they just want to hear us talk. So for those who don't know the movie, this is the quintessential Antichrist movie. It's about the child who's born with the number of the beast. But you can't be certain because the child looks so sweet. But oh no, he is the Antichrist and we have to stop him. Like, the premise is the child is born and or adopted by this American couple who are going to be like the ambassadors to Great Britain. And they have their son, but he seems a little bit weird. And could there be something wrong with the boy? And then hijinks. Stuff happens.
I think I can't remember specifically the opening to begin with, but their child is essentially swapped out for the Antichrist, so that this cult is putting the Antichrist in a position where he can become an influential political figure down the line.
Did you say you found this movie to be very tame?
I did find this movie to be very tame, and I mean that in comparison to like horror films that would come later, that would become more violent and more upfront with the horror, rather than being more obsequious and surreptitious with the horror, like the Omen is.
Well, would you say The Exorcist is tame?
No, The Exorcist is not tame in the sense that it has a little girl, and by the way, in The Exorcist, when all the gruesome, horrible stuff happens, that's not the actual actress, should I say. They got a stunt double to do that. But it is a lot more foul. The possession or the demon in The Exorcist is specifically backed into a corner and is trying to agitate people by being foul, vulgar, murderous. This is the son of the devil. So everything's being more subtle.
See, I would say when it comes to I would say The Omen is not tame, because when I think of tame horror, I think of horror that's very campy, and you kind of laugh at whatever's happening. Oh, the blood splatters, it's fake. Oh, of course the characters are gonna split up and get killed off. That's just that to me is like tame horror. This is like uncomfortable, dreading horror. The devil is there, and he's very real, and he's going to be let loose on the earth. So I thought The Omen, in that terms, was not tame. This is the kind of film where most people, I think, will walk away feeling depressed.
Well, if you look back at the audiences at the time, a lot of people were leaving the cinema very disturbed by the film. And a lot of the film's budget actually went on advertising. I think almost half of its $2 million budget went on advertising, and they purposely released it on the 6th of the 6th month, 1976, so they could advertise it as being released in America on the 6th, 76.
That's always how it is. Just like how they had to do the Omen remake in 2006. June 6.
Yeah, but a lot of it was marketing, though there is an interesting curse attached to this film, supposedly.
Do tell. Do tell.
It's called the Omen curse, quite appropriately. But everyone who's worked in this film has either died or been injured unexpectedly and in strange circumstances.
Everyone who worked on the movie has either died or has been injured in strange circumstances.
Correct.
Well, at some point, can't you say that about just about every single movie? Like if I said, don't you know that everybody who worked on The Wizard of Oz is dead now? And or got injured in strange circumstances? I'm assuming everyone who's worked on a movie will at some point be dead, or will at some point receive a very strange injury in their life.
Well, this is true, but the deaths are odd, considering the circumstances of their deaths. Like both of the lead actors were flying back to Britain on separate planes and both got hit by lightning. One of the other cast members, he and his wife, he was injured and his wife was decapitated during filming of, I think it was A Bridge Too Far.
Good heavens.
A lot of other things like that. Bad luck has befallen it, and it's all, I put it down to coincidence, but because it's a film about the devil and bad stuff happened, people link those two things together.
Right. People are gonna talk. And good heavens, the director Richard Donner, his cause of death was heart failure with atherosclerosis as an underlying cause. What does it mean?
It means he had a heart condition and died.
Anyways,
there's a bunch to go over. I think one of the things that gets looked over, especially with this film, are the practical effects. Like when I forgot the character's name now, but his head is decapitated by that huge pane of glass.
Yes, this is one of those most famous head. This is on list of top 10 lists of best head decapitations in movies.
They could only do it once, and I saw some behind the scenes shot about this, and they weren't sure how it was going to go. So they did it, and the head spins in place on the pane of glass before it goes all the way through and hits the floor. And for that, they did it in one take and just kept it.
So I'm trying to think more about like my thoughts on the movie. So I basically I really do like this movie. It is the creepy, dreading horror, and like I said, normally I wouldn't like the ending, but the ending makes sense. And I didn't think there was anything like theologically wrong with it or like offensive. It all basically checks out, I think.
Other than a lot of the Bible verses from the Revelation of John are made up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some of the Bible verses they use and the interpretations they use were completely made up for the film.
Well, in that case, I had better double check my Bible. Really quickly, I was gonna say the one thing that I found objectionable. There's the scene where they're going to be going to a. I'm gonna get really mean for a second here. They're going to. They have to go to a wedding at an Anglican church, and the maid is all like, I don't think it'll be appropriate for him to go there. And she's like, and the mother's like, I want Damien dressed and ready. So they go to this Anglican church, and Damien, being the devil, has a freak out because he doesn't want to go inside a church. I'm thinking, good heavens, it's an Anglican church. I think the devil will be very much at home there. There, I said it. I said it.
You got to think of what the Anglican Church was then and not what it is now.
In the mid 70s, was it really much better?
It was a lot better. Mid 70s, like the liberalization of the Anglican Church didn't really happen until like the late 90s.
Well, I hope so. I just know that moment had me like laughing, like, ha ha ha, yeah, right. Oh, I know something I want to talk about. The use of animals in this movie. One thing I've noticed so much with concurrent movies is if something's going to make a shoot more difficult, they just don't use it. So in older films, you'll often see things like people riding on horseback, and it's like, oh, cool, they actually had to get the actors and train them how to ride a horse and, get someone to, manage the horses. And nowadays it's like, too much trouble. Let's just have the characters walking and talking, So today, people like Hollywood's like that. I know it's just so much less actual animals or trained animals in movies, or they just have a CGI animal to do things. And so anytime today, whenever I do see, like they had flippin' CGI horses in the Hobbit movie. As opposed to the Lord of the Rings movies where they had all real horses, except for obvious shots. But you know what I mean. With this film, there were two things. They have that scene where they go to the zoo, and they have a bunch of giraffes, and the giraffes like run away because they sense Damien is the devil. And then they have the thing where they go through like the baboon cage, and the baboons are all freaking out and jumping all over their vehicle. And I'm like, this must have been a lot of work, to manage all this. And this is the kind of thing where today they would be like, oh, just don't bother, let's not work with a whole bunch of monkeys. Like, I don't know how they did that. How do you train a bunch of monkeys to jump all over the car like that? That had to be some considerable effort.
I'm not entirely sure. I do know two animal facts about this film, and that the nanny's dog was meant to be aggressive and intimidating. However, it was anything but on set, so they tried not to film it as much as possible. Because it was so excited being there, it would run up to everyone and just be friendly, when it was meant to be like a scary, aggressive dog.
Do you think the dog's still alive?
No, it was 1976.
Do you think there was like a year, like maybe in like 1990, where they're like, newspapers are like, the original dog from the Omen finally passed away? Or
I'd probably be surprised if someone wrote it down somewhere.
Whatever became of the dog? Is the dog listed under like the actor list? I'm now looking.
they do usually list stunt animals. There was another one where the scene where the goldfish bowl drops. The director refused to kill goldfish for the scene, so they're actually orange painted sardines.
Well, you know what they always say, no animal was ever actually harmed in the making of this movie, except for the sardines.
The sardines were pre-killed. Okay, so about the plot, a lot of the plot I think hinges on the characters' reactions to it. So what do you think about like how the characters reacted to the unfolding events within the plot?
Like the husband and wife.
Yeah, Gregory Peck and so on.
Yeah.
Like how, because one kind of falls into like a depression almost. Gregory Peck's character, the ambassador, he becomes a lot more invested in the actual conspiracy, and then you have Damien.
Right. Well, to me, they reacted or acted or were written in a way that made it believable to me because they're like, I don't believe in any of this stuff. And then as small things happen, they start to have their minds turned. The wife is just depressed because she doesn't know what's going on. The husband knows that Damien was switched out. And then small red flags keep popping up. Yeah, I thought it was all like, it felt all believable as all came about.
I think there's a great scene, and it's right at the end where the family's being buried, and Damien looks back at the camera and smiles to the audience.
Oh, okay. So I'll say that the two. So this. Yeah, so even though this is one of those very dreading, the devil is coming for you kind of films, I was gonna list that as one of the two things that has aged in a way that makes it very funny. Like at the very last scene, like Damien literally looks out at the audience and smiles. It was like so. I found that humorous.
I like it because it's a sinister nod and a wink to the audience that we know what's happening and no one else does.
I don't know if they could have filmed it any better. I'm not saying this it's badly filmed. I just know I now find it. I personally just found that moment humorous. Just looking at the audience and smiling. And I'm sure people got like heart attacks in the theater at that moment, but now it's just funny. He turns to the audience like, that's right, audience, wink, wink, I fooled them. Okay, so we can debate whether or not, the execution of that final... It's a good final shot, but I just personally found it funny. The one thing in this movie that has aged humorously is the main theme musical score. For those
Go on, please.
For those who don't know, anytime you've watched like a parody film or a YouTube video and you hear the music, bom bom, bom bom, shawty slew, bom bom, bom bom, shawty slew, bom bom, ah boom, ah.
Yeah, I think you made your point.
Yeah. Because that's now been used in satire and parody and in comedy or any kind of short skit, like whenever I first saw this movie, I was like, oh, that's where this comes from. And yeah, I couldn't hear that bit without laughing because I know how it's been satirized or how that piece has been used.
I feel bad because the song itself is called Ave Satani. And it's the only horror film to get a Best Original Song Oscar nomination.
Just based on that one?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
The choir is Ave Satani, and it was the only it was the only song in a horror film that was ever nominated for a Best Original Song Oscar.
Interesting, because it's more of a musical, like. Usually what's considered best song is like best pop song that plays during the credits. But this is the kind of thing that they actually looked at back then when doing Oscar nominations, like individual song tracks like that. That, as far as I'm concerned, wasn't exactly... It was more of a chant that was just, a musical score. But I guess it's a song. I mean, do you listen to that while you're driving the car? Just driving around. I'm an MP3 player. Oh, the Omen song.
I have listened to it all the way through, and from what I gather, and I kind of agree, it was written and sung in Latin, and it was meant to be sort of like if there was a choir of hell, that would be the song that they would be singing. So that's how it kind of sounds like to me, anyway.
It sure sounds like it. Yeah, I don't think there's any other movie that's quite like this film, because it does everything that it's trying to do perfectly, and you really can't. It feels inspiring enough. Like, oh, I want to go write my own horror novel now, inspired by this. But there's no other way to really do a take on evil Antichrist child. It's like, this is the Antichrist child movie. Or if you had another story about an evil child, it's like, well, is the evil child the Antichrist? Well, what's the point then? You know, there is no point. You already have the Omen, which did evil Antichrist devil child perfectly.
There's actually a film that I'm trying to think now if it predates it. Yeah, there was one film that predates it, which is again one of my other favorite films, which has the same vibe, and that's Rosemary's Baby.
Okay, that's one that I've seen, and that's the one I don't like. Like, yes, it's very enticing and very creepy, but to me, that one was just more like depressing at the end.
It's a film about the Antichrist. It's not going to end happily.
I feel like that one didn't take the subject. Maybe I'm biased because I know the director, Roman Polanski, like, did not believe in any of that stuff at all, and so it felt very cynical, his approach to it. It really was just campiness for the sake of campiness. I mean, not that Rosemary's Baby is not campy. Rosemary's Baby is not is not a film that I recommend.
I don't know. I disagree, because when it comes to like the satanic, whether it be cults or the Antichrist, the devil itself, I always like that idea of hiding in plain sight. Because the satanic cultists in Rosemary's Baby just look like your next door neighbors. The devil in The Devil's Advocate just looks like a guy when he wants to.
I mean, I'll say this, Rosemary's Baby, it taught me the thing that I know I've seen in other films, that is, like, you go to someone's house and you can kind of tell something's weird, or you can tell people are acting odd, and the character is, like, trying to is, like, considering, like, what's going on, and it's like, oh yeah, all these little innocuous things you're noticing or not noticing, it's like, this is all because of some greater evil that's happening in the background, and you're just left out of the loop. Sure, but I would have liked Rosemary's Baby more if, like, the SWAT teams burst in at the very and in the final scene, like, shot everyone or something.
No. No.
Saying you're under arrest for violating the Falstaff Act. I think that would have made that movie perfect. But we're not here talking about Rosemary's Baby. I think I like The Omen much more. But so here's something. So as a kid, hearing about the Book of Revelation and hearing about, like, the Antichrist, you know, I always had these, like, you know, visions in my head of, like, how that would all work out and how that would go down. And, you know, the idea is, well, the Antichrist would be probably a very powerful world leader. And I don't know if this is, like, a narcissistic American thing, but, like, the fear would be, oh, it would be some horrible American president or something. The image I guess us Americans would have is that it would be an American president who would be the Antichrist, because there's only so many powerful entities in the world that the Antichrist could take over. It wouldn't be China. Nobody would care. Like, the Antichrist can't do anything with that. But America, what could happen there? So with that perception in mind, whenever I watched The Omen, it actually felt like it was drawing my worst childhood fears out of my head, especially with the ending, because it ends with the funeral scene and the soldiers shooting off their rifles, and you see the American flag a whole bunch, and then someone's holding Damien's hand, and you kind of get the sense like, oh, Damien is coming for the United States. Like, he's going to have a career in politics in the U.S., and that will be how he influences the world. So that final moment just felt like it was pulling right out of my head how my childhood imagination for how that would all go down.
I kind of, well, politics was the thing at the time. I think if you remade The Omen today and it wasn't terrible, you'd probably make him sort of like a corporate CEO or something.
Yeah, that does sound like how they would remake it today. I mean, do people in the UK ever have the perception that the Antichrist would be the head of England?
No, but our politics is very different because we have a party system while you technically have a presidential system. There was a joke for a while where they were calling Tony Blair the Antichrist, but I don't think that was very literal.
Tony Blair. Well, yeah, I'm sure every leader in every European country gets called the Antichrist at some point. I think Ronald Reagan was called. What people had I think he had 6 letters in each of his names.
I think a lot of people are putting 2 and 2 together and making 5, to be honest. That is kind of the point of the Antichrist, is you're not supposed to realize it's the Antichrist.
Yeah, Ronald Wilson Reagan, 666. I actually have 6 letters in each of my names.
Well, bully for you, but Ronald Reagan is dead.
Well, yes. I'm not saying I believe that.
So, if he was the Antichrist, he'd be a very poor one.
Because he accidentally... We're getting too much into politics. Let's not bring too much real-world politics into this fun movie review.
You started it.
Let's see. What other movies came out during that time?
1976.
Yeah, I have right now, just from things that I've seen from that year, Rocky and Taxi Driver. And then 1 year later, in 1977, The Bridge Too Far and Star Wars.
There was King Kong.
There was a King Kong movie back then.
Yeah, Taxi Driver.
I like Taxi
The Man
Driver.
Who Fell to Earth, which is a really kind of odd, weird film.
Oh, is that the one with David Bowie?
Yes, I was making sure I wasn't confusing it with another film.
I remember back in the day, people talking about that movie being, someone was like, oh, The Man Who Fell to Earth, it's about like a space alien who falls to Earth and he's walking around, doesn't understand things. And someone's like, oh, so it's a David Bowie biopic.
He did admit that he didn't remember anything about that film because he was on a lot of cocaine.
I'm sure he was.
Logan's Run, 1976, one of my favorites.
Yeah, so note, for education's sake out there, people, The Omen was directed by Richard Donner. It was not his brainchild, as it were, but he was brought on to direct it. And he's got a very wide variety of films he's made. He would go on to do Superman 2 years later, the Christopher Reeve Superman. Later on, he would do, in 1985, he would direct Ladyhawke, very good one. The Goonies, I don't care for The Goonies that much, but he also directed Conspiracy Theory in 1996. I would say that's one of my favorites, Conspiracy Theory.
He did a good few episodes of The Twilight Zone, if I remember right.
I've watched very little Twilight Zone. And hasn't that Twilight Zone been redone multiple times?
Oh yeah, it's been redone at least 3 times.
Okay, that's what I was thinking just now. Did he direct The Fugitive?
I'm not sure, but there's a slightly funny anecdote about Richard Donner in this particular film, The Omen.
Yes.
When they were casting for Damien, he got all the kids to line up and tell them to come at him like they were attacking him. And the kid they originally picked just jumped on him and started screaming and kicking him in the groin.
Okay.
And he's like, yep, that's our Damien. They had to dye his hair black and put contact lenses because the kid is blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and they had to give him contact lenses to darken his eyes and dye his hair black for the role.
I said just now, just as a correction, I said I thought that Richard Donner directed The Fugitive. No, he did not, but he got his start in, I guess, directing some episodes of the old Fugitive TV show, which I did not realize was a TV show until I looked it up just now. Interesting.
But what else is there to say about the Omen? It's literally a series of events that gradually increase the character's paranoia as well as the audience's.
When did you watch this movie as a kid?
I might have been like 13, 14.
Okay, interesting. There's a lot of good moments in the movie. I feel like we're skipping over a bunch of stuff we should talk about, but I don't know, maybe we'll just leave some things left unanswered for the curious. I enjoyed the whole, like, how would I say it? Da Vinci Code aspect of it, if you will, of, like, figuring out what's going on and having to do some traveling and investigating and figuring it all out.
They actually went to Jerusalem to film part of the video as well.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, the archaeological dig scene was an archaeological dig next to the Temple Mount.
The scene where the priest character gets skewered by the giant spike.
Oh yes, that is a famous scene.
Okay, I was gonna say I remember hearing people talk about, oh, that scene where he gets skewered. Oh, someone gets impaled. And whenever I saw that scene in the movie, I actually found it very dull and bloodless. It's like, oh, he's skewered. Was I supposed to, like, cover my eyes in horror or something? Like, what?
Like I said, it was terrifying for the time, but we're just so inoculated against violence now that it's just not a big deal.
It just looked like it looked like it went over his shoulder, which obviously it did.
They did it by basically attaching it. It's a hollow pole, and they attached it to fishing wire, so it just slid like down on a zip line right behind him, and then he just kind of hung forward.
So, okay, how about this? What did we learn from the Omen?
The Antichrist is real, and he is a small boy. There's not a moral lesson to this film.
I guess not exactly. I guess I would say, upon watching it, I learned that Richard Donner has a wide range of directing ability.
I think if I learned anything from this, not moralistically, but you can make a really good horror film for not a lot of money and very few special effects.
That is true, but I mean, hey, they put the effort into working with those giraffes and monkeys.
I guess.
Did you like the nanny in the movie?
She was great. I think she was a really good actor, especially it's for you, Damien, it's all for you, and then hangs herself.
Well, there's that nanny, then the second nanny.
Yes.
Yes, so people in the movie, there's the evil nanny who's like, looking after Damien, like, we're gonna keep you safe, Damien. I'm sent here to protect you. And she's like basically pulling strings in the background to make things happen.
Yeah. You never know, like, is she a cultist? Is she like a demon?
A cultist.
You never
know. Or is she a demon?
Or is she a demon? They never outright say it. She's on the side of hell because she knows full well who Damien is and what the plans for him are, but what is she exactly?
Yeah, is there anyone who you don't recommend this movie to?
Paranoids. People who read too much into fake Bible stories.
Well, clear that up for the audience. What do you mean by fake Bible stories?
Like I said, a lot of the conspiracy in the film is either misquoted or directly made up.
Okay, I gotcha.
So it's like the Da Vinci Code. It's a fiction, but people, some conspiracy nuts think it's actually real.
Okay, I see what you mean. Now, this is the kind of film where I wish more people I know would watch it, but I think those same people would be mad at me for tricking them into watching it. And I'm like, no, it's wonderful. I think I'm somewhat desensitized. And yes, there are the movies where, like I said, the devil wins, where I don't like them. They're just miserable and depressing. But this one makes sense because it's like, well, he's one for now, and he would, because you can't murder the Antichrist like that. It's not going to happen that way. Yeah, like would I want everybody I know to watch this movie? Yes. Will people be mad at me for telling them to watch it? Probably.
I think it's worth it because while it's not exactly the same, it's presented like an old style ghost story.
Yes, I would say for people who get really freaked out by these kinds of movies, go into it with a little bit of camp, like laugh at the horrible moments. Laugh when the lady hangs herself. Laugh at the decapitation. Laugh when one person gets chucked off the top of the building and falls through a ambulance roof. Just try to laugh at the devilry. But then again, I guess hardcore horror is not for everyone.
I don't know, I wouldn't call the Omen hardcore.
It's hardcore scary.
No.
No, I seriously thought this was one of the more creepier, scarier horror films I'd seen. I thought it was because it did feel very real in its presentation.
I get that. I've seen far worse that is actually disturbing.
Sure, but at that point, I don't recommend those movies.
You gotta be a certain type of person, I guess.
It's all a thought experiment, right?
Well, yeah. It's, that's what fiction is.
Yeah, so, wait, let's go over this one more time. So why do you like this movie?
I like this movie, because it is a horror film in the style of an old ghost story. It relies a lot more on suspense and psychological horror and tricking the audience and the other characters. So it's not bloody and gory and in your face, which there are films like that which I like, but it relies a lot on good acting, good cinematography, at least somewhat believable kills.
I don't disagree with any of that. I would say mostly while I'm watching it, I feel inspired, but I'm not sure what I'm feel inspired to do. Like sometimes if I watch a really good movie, or read a really good book, I'll have this inspiration to like, oh, if I were to make my own movie or my own book, like how would I do this? So, but with The Omen, I don't exactly feel inspired because the movie is done so perfectly. I don't think I could do a better version of what this is doing. I really think there's only one way to do this story, and The Omen has done it. It's been completed. Move on. You don't have to try to remake The Omen. Did you ever see the remake?
I purposely avoided the remake. I knew it was going to be terrible, and I was right. And I don't have to see it to know I'm right.
Maybe we should watch that.
Do we have to?
No, we don't. It's fine.
Okay. If you're going to watch another small child Satan movie, watch Late Night with the Devil.
There you go. Okay, any other last thoughts on this one?
Yes, children can be really creepy.
I guess I would say there's not always a big lesson to be learned from a movie, but sometimes it's enjoyable and you can't quite put your finger on why it's so enjoyable. If you like movies about families being murdered and being torn apart because of a devil child, then, well, you might just love The Omen. I don't know. I don't know how to give a good summary for this one.
I think it's just what they did so well that it's just the art and the craft of making a movie, regardless of the subject matter.
I think people should. One reason to watch this movie is because once you watch it, you'll get a whole lot of probably contemporary references, and you'll probably notice a bunch of directing moments, and you'll say, "Oh, I see. That's where this one moment came from that one movie I liked. It came from this film first." So that's sort of a reason I think to check this movie out.
There is a reason why they show the Omen in film schools. Maybe not the ones you went to, but definitely I know it's shown in some film schools.
Alright, well, with that, I don't have much more to say, so... I mean, unless you have something else to say, all I have to say is... Good night, everyone. That is all. That is all I have.
Good night, everyone. Sleep tight.